This isn't just another night, and this isn't just another video. Something deeper brought you here. Maybe pain, maybe fatigue, maybe a quiet desperation you couldn't even explain. But underneath it all, your soul has been crying out for peace, and heaven heard. The chaos of the day might still be echoing in your mind, the unanswered questions, the things that didn't go as planned, the weight of invisible pressures. But in this moment, something is shifting. You are not watching this by coincidence. You are being led. You are being called into a sacred space, not a place to perform, not a place to prove, but a place to rest. God is not looking for perfect words. He's listening to your heart. He is near to the brokenhearted. He draws close to the quiet ones who seek him in the night. And right now, the Creator of the universe is turning his face toward you. This is your invitation, not to fix everything, not to earn anything, but to be still, to open your soul, to let God speak into the silence. Your room is about to become a sanctuary, your night, a place of encounter, and this prayer a turning point. If your heart is open tonight, type in the comments, "God, I'm here and I need you." Let it be your declaration. Let it be your act of faith. You may have come here expecting a few calming words, but what's unfolding now is far more sacred than that. This is a conversation between your soul and God, one that's been waiting to happen for a long time. God is not far. He's not distracted. He's not too busy to notice the quiet ache inside you. He's been present through every moment of your day. But now that everything else is silent, he wants to speak, not through thunder, not through a miracle outside of you, but through a whisper inside your spirit. Tonight is not about performance. It's not about pretending you're okay. You don't have to recite beautiful prayers or know the right verses. You only need to be present and honest. There are words you haven't spoken out loud, emotions you haven't dared to admit, longings you've tried to bury under your daily routine. But God already knows, and he's here to meet you there, not where you think you should be, but where you really are. So let your guard down. This is not a speech, not a show. This is sacred ground. God is here to talk with you, even if you've never prayed before, even if you feel unworthy or unsure. Tonight, heaven opens a space for you, and it begins not with you speaking, but with you listening. You've been carrying so much, not just responsibilities, but invisible weights, thoughts that won't quiet down, emotions you try to hide, questions with no answer, fears about tomorrow, regrets from yesterday, and all of it silently pressing on your chest. But tonight is different. Tonight is not about fixing everything, it's about laying it down, because the most powerful prayers don't always start with words. They start with surrender, let go of the outcome, of the pressure, of the need to understand, of the need to appear strong. Surrender is not giving up, it's giving over. It's saying, God, I can't carry this anymore, but I believe you can. The pain you've been managing alone, you weren't meant to hold it forever. The fight you've been fighting in silence, it was never yours to win by force. There is peace in releasing control and freedom in not having to pretend you're okay. God already knows. He's not shocked by your weakness. He's drawn to it. He is near to those who let go. And in the letting go, healing begins. So tonight, open your hands, not clenched in fear, but released in faith. Tell him silently, I surrender. Not my will, but yours, not my control, but your care. This is how miracles begin, not through striving, but through trust. The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? Psalm 27:1. Fear has visited your heart, But God is about to enter too. Fear always knocks at night. When the world grows quiet, the volume of fear seems to rise. It comes in whispers. What if things don't get better? What if I fail? What if I'm not enough? Psalm 27 begins with a bold declaration, "The Lord is my light." Not just a flicker of hope, but light strong enough to silence the darkness. He is not just near you, and He is your salvation. He doesn't just comfort, He delivers. He doesn't just observe, He rescues. Fear may have entered your heart lately, maybe slowly, maybe like a storm. But now another presence steps in. The one who holds the future, the one who never leaves, the one who fights when you can't even lift your hands. God never promised a life without fear, but He did promise His presence would be stronger. He promised to be your light in the fear, your salvation through the fear. And when fear stands at the door of your heart, He stands taller, stronger, closer, ready to say, "You are not alone in this. I am your light, and I will not let fear win." So tonight, breathe. Let fear hear you exhale, because light has entered the room. When the wicked advance, they will stumble and fall. Psalm 27:2. I feel surrounded by problems, but God promises I'm not alone. Some battles seem unfair. You didn't ask for the conflict. You didn't provoke the storm. And yet darkness seemed to move against you. People, situations, inner struggles, all advancing like enemies with no mercy. But God's word is clear. They will stumble. They will fall. The attacks formed against you were never stronger than the presence standing with you. When the wicked advance, whether in the form of real opposition or invisible torment, the promise of Psalm 27 still stands. God sees, God defends, God wins. You may feel surrounded, but heaven is surrounding what's surrounding you. What's coming against you will not have the last word. It may roar, it may intimidate, it may make you question everything. But the moment it tries to cross the boundary of God's protection, it falls. That's not your strength. That's not your strategy. That's your defender. You are not unprotected. You are not forgotten. And you are not easy to destroy. Not when God stands beside you. Even now, forces that moved against you are weakening. Heaven is intervening in ways you cannot yet see. If this speaks to what you're facing, type in the comments, "God is my defender. I will not be shaken." Let fear know you've made your choice. Let your soul declare its anchor. Though an army besiege me, my heart will not fear. Psalm 27:3. Even if everything is falling apart, I will stand in faith. There are moments when it feels like everything is collapsing at once. No warning, no mercy. Just wave after wave of pressure, disappointment, confusion. You look around and nothing feels stable. The people you counted on distant. The plans you made uncertain, your own strength fading. David didn't say, "If trouble comes." He said, "Though an army besiege me." He expected opposition and still chose faith. That's the secret, not denying the chaos, not pretending the pain doesn't exist, but standing anyway, believing anyway, breathing anyway. Faith doesn't always feel loud or powerful. Sometimes it's just refusing to let fear take the final word. Faith is whispering, "God is with me," and that's enough. Even when surrounded, God is closer than what threatens you. Even when anxious, His peace is deeper than the storm. Even when uncertain, His promises remain unshaken. You may feel like you're falling apart, but God is holding you together. You may feel like you're breaking down, but something in your spirit still stands. And that's not weakness, that's warfare. That's what it looks like to walk by faith, not by sight. Tonight, repeat this truth in your heart. Though everything shakes around me, my heart will not fear, because the one who calms the storm is still in control. One thing I ask, to dwell in the house of the Lord, Psalm 27:4. The most powerful prayer is not for answers, but for presence. When life becomes overwhelming, we often ask God for many things: solutions, open doors, healing, relief. But David, in the middle of battle and uncertainty, didn't ask for escape. He asked for presence. One thing I ask, to dwell in the house of the Lord. Not 100 things, just one, not a new outcome, a deeper connection. Because when you have God's presence, you have peace, even if nothing changes. You have strength, even if answers delay. You have rest, even if the storm rages on. To dwell in the house of the Lord means to live aware of Him, to walk in constant communion, to know you are not just surviving, you are being kept intentionally, lovingly, eternally. David wasn't seeking a building, he was longing for closeness. A life wrapped in the nearness of God, a heart tuned to divine whispers. And you? What is your one thing? When everything is stripped away, what does your soul truly long for? More than relief, ask for relationship. More than quick answers, ask for deep assurance. Because when His presence comes, light follows, truth follows, freedom follows. Tonight, whisper this in the quiet: God, I don't need control, I just need you near. That prayer moves heaven. That prayer transforms the atmosphere of your soul, and that prayer never goes unanswered. He will hide me in the shelter of His sacred tent. Psalm 27 verse 5. You are not exposed. You are covered by divine protection. Some nights the world feels too loud, too dangerous, too uncertain, and you wonder, am I really protected? Does anyone truly see what I'm facing? David answers that question. He will hide me in the shelter of His sacred tent. Not just shield you, hide you, out of reach, out of danger, covered, not forgotten, protected, not abandoned. This is not a fragile hiding place. It's the sacred tent of the Almighty, the place where God draws near and says, "Here you're safe. Rest now." You are not as vulnerable as you feel. The spiritual attacks, they saw you, but couldn't touch you, because a greater force stepped in, because the shelter of God is not made of walls, it's made of presence. He covers your mind, He guards your emotions, He protects your destiny. Even if you feel exposed, you are actually hidden in a place the enemy cannot reach. The pain may touch your body, but your soul is untouched. Your hope is still breathing. Your spirit is still standing. So don't believe the lie that you're alone in the dark. Don't assume the silence means God is distant. He may be hiding you for a reason, shielding you until the storm passes. Tonight, lay your head knowing this. You are covered. You are watched over. You are held, not by chance, but by divine design. Then my head will be exalted above the enemies. Psalm 27:6. The same people who saw you broken will see your restoration. There is a shift coming, a divine turning point, not because you fought harder, not because you figured everything out, but because God lifts what was once bowed low. David had enemies. He wasn't hiding it, but he also had a promise that the same people who saw him surrounded would one day see him lifted. And the same is true for you. Your pain was real. Your tears weren't invisible. Your fall was not the end. Restoration is coming. The ones who underestimated you, who assumed your story was finished, will witness what only God can do. This isn't about revenge. This is about redemption, about showing that God never wastes a wound, never leaves a story unfinished, never lets the darkness win. You won't have to explain yourself. God will make it clear. You won't have to fight for your name. God will honor it in His timing. And when He lifts your head, it won't be with arrogance, but with quiet gratitude. Because you'll know what it cost. You'll remember the nights like this, when you whispered prayers in the dark. So don't lose heart. The people who saw your breaking will also see your becoming, because God doesn't just restore, He exalts. He honors the wounded who trusted Him, and that includes you. Hear my voice when I call, Lord. Psalm 27:7. When your heart cries out, heaven leans in to listen. There is a kind of cry that words can't fully express. A sound that rises from deep within, from wounds, confusion, longing, surrender. David didn't just speak to God, he called out. Not because God was far, but because his soul needed to be heard. And God hears. Every sigh, every silent prayer, every tear that falls when no one is watching. Hear my voice. It's not just a phrase. It's the cry of someone who believes that heaven is not indifferent. When your voice trembles, God doesn't ignore it. He leans in. He draws near. He listens, not just to your words, but to your soul. Maybe tonight you didn't know what to pray. Maybe you felt like your words were weak, repetitive, or broken. But to God, they were precious, real, sacred. The cries you whispered in the dark, they reached the throne of heaven. The pain you didn't explain, He understood before you said a word. God listens with love, not impatience. He doesn't roll His eyes at your need. He doesn't grow weary of your voice, so don't hold back. Let your soul speak. Cry out, not with fear but with faith. He hears you. He's listening now, and His silence is never absence. He is preparing the answer, even while you call. If this is your prayer tonight, leave a comment below with, Lord, I know you hear me. Let it be your declaration of faith, even in the silence. My heart says of you, seek His face. Psalm 27:8. Deep down, your soul knows who to run to. There's a voice inside you that no chaos can silence, a gentle but firm whisper, pointing you toward the one who never changes. Seek His face. In the middle of confusion, when every option seems blurry, your heart knows. When people disappoint you, when answers don't come, when the weight becomes too much, your soul remembers, run to God. You were created with eternity inside you. That's why no temporary solution can bring true peace. No human word can calm your deepest fear like His presence does. And David knew that. He didn't just seek God's help. He sought God's face, not His hand, not His miracles, His face, His nearness, His eyes locked on yours in the dark. Because when you find God's face, you find identity, you find clarity, you find peace that doesn't depend on results. And maybe your life has been full of moments where you ran the other way, but still this whisper remains, seek Him. That's not guilt, that's grace, calling you back, inviting you closer. Tonight, don't ignore the whisper, don't drown it in noise. Your soul isn't asking for escape, it's asking for encounter. God's face is turned toward you, and when you seek Him, you never walk away empty. He's not hiding, He's waiting for this moment right here, right now. Do not hide your face from me. Psalm 27:9. You can be honest, even when you feel distant from God. Not every night is filled with confidence. Some nights even faith feels fragile. And David, the same man who declared, "The Lord is my light," now cries out, "Don't hide from me." Have you ever felt that? Prayed and heard no reply, believed but still felt alone? This verse gives you permission to feel, to admit the distance. to bring even your doubts into the conversation. God never asked you to pretend. He's not interested in rehearsed prayers or perfect faith. He wants truth, even if it sounds like weakness. David wasn't punished for this cry. He was heard. He was loved. He was still called a man after God's heart. And so are you. If you've been feeling far, if God feels silent, don't shut down. Speak it, pray it. Say, God, I miss you. Say, God, are you still with me? Because that's not rebellion, it's relationship. Sometimes distance is just a feeling, not a fact. Because God's presence isn't based on your emotions, it's based on His promise. And tonight, even if you can't feel Him, He is near. Even if your heart is numb, He hasn't turned away. So pray the prayer David did. Please don't hide from me. And trust that He won't. He never does. He stays, He listens, He waits until your heart can feel again. Though my father and mother forsake me. Psalm 27:10. Human love may fail, but divine love never leaves. Some wounds don't come from strangers. They come from the ones who were supposed to protect you. Parents, family, people you trusted with your soul. And David puts into words what many hearts have felt in silence. Even if my father and mother abandon me, it's not just about family. It's about the deepest kind of rejection, the kind that leaves you asking, am I even worthy of being loved? If you've ever felt invisible, overlooked, or emotionally abandoned, this verse is for you. God is not comparing Himself to people. He's contrasting Himself with them. Where human love has limits, His love has none. Even when the people you needed most walked away, God remained. Even when no one knew how to comfort you, He did. He saw the tears behind the smile, the strength you had to fake, the dreams you buried because no one believed in them. And He stayed. You don't have to earn that kind of love. You don't have to perform for it. You just have to receive it. God's love is not a replacement, it's a redemption. He doesn't patch over old wounds. He heals them completely. You are not alone, not forgotten, not abandoned. The same God who chose David chooses you. Let that settle into your heart tonight. Even if the world turns its back, God never will. His love stays, it heals, and it calls you home. Teach me your way, Lord. Psalm 27:11. Ask not just for the solution, ask for direction. There's a moment in every spiritual journey where the question shifts. From God, fix this, to God, guide me through this. David, a warrior and king, humbled himself with a simple request. Teach me. He could have asked for an escape. He could have demanded victory. But instead, he asked for understanding. Because sometimes, God doesn't take you out of the storm. He teaches you how to walk through it with wisdom. We often want resolution, but what our souls really need is direction. To see what God sees. To follow steps that lead not only out of pain, but into purpose. When everything feels uncertain, when life takes turns you didn't expect, this prayer becomes your compass. Teach me your way. Not just make it easier, but make me wiser. Not open every door, but show me which ones to knock on. This is maturity in faith, choosing to be led, not just rescued. And the beautiful truth is, God is a patient teacher. He doesn't rush the lesson. He walks with you through every chapter. So tonight, shift your prayer. Ask not just for answers, ask for the path. Say, God, I don't need to know everything. I just need to take the next step with you. Because when He leads, there is peace, even in the unknown. Let that be your rest tonight. You don't have to figure it all out. You only have to be teachable. God will show the way. Do not turn me over to the desire of my foes. Psalm 27:12. Sometimes the greatest deliverance is invisible. There are battles you never saw, conversations you were not part of, plans formed in secret against you, and still you are here. Why? Because God didn't let it happen, because divine protection often works silently. David understood that not all threats are physical. Some are whispers, accusations, envy, things that move in the dark behind closed doors. And his prayer was simple: don't let their intentions win. You may never know the full extent of what God shielded you from, the betrayal he blocked, the harm he reversed, the trap that never got to spring. But every breath you take tonight is a sign that the enemy didn't succeed. Deliverance isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it looks like peace you can't explain. Doors that closed before they could hurt you, people who left, and you didn't understand why. Moments you felt delayed but were actually being protected. So let this verse remind you, what was meant to destroy you did not touch you. And it's not because you were strong, but because God was present. If you believe God has protected you from things you didn't even see, write in the comments, "Thank you, Lord, for the battles you fought for me." Leave that testimony as a silent thank you and a public declaration of faith. Because what the enemy planned, God blocked, and what was meant for evil will not prosper. I remain confident of this. I will see the goodness of the Lord. Psalm 27:13. Faith is believing in what you don't see yet. Hope is not always loud. Sometimes it's just a whisper that refuses to die, a quiet certainty that says, "I will see the goodness of the Lord." Even when nothing looks good, even when the pain is louder than the promise, even when the answers are still far away. David wasn't speaking from a throne. He was still in the middle of his troubles, but faith made him future-focused. Not wishful thinking, but a deep inner confidence. I don't see it yet, but I will. That's the kind of faith that survives dark nights. It doesn't need proof, it holds on to presence. It says, "I may not have the solution, but I know who my God is." You're not crazy for still believing. You're not naive for holding on. Faith is not pretending there's no problem. It's trusting that the problem won't win. You will see His goodness, not just in eternity, but in the land of the living, in your home, in your body, in your finances, in your family, in your nights of prayer. This is not blind optimism. This is spiritual vision. It's choosing to believe that God is already writing what your eyes will one day see. So hold on to this promise. You will see healing. You will see restoration. You will see that your waiting was not in vain. Let this be your inner anthem tonight. I remain confident. Because what God starts, He finishes, in beauty, in timing, and in perfect goodness. Wait for the Lord, be strong and take heart. Psalm 27:14. God's timing is not late, it's perfect. Waiting is not weakness, it's one of the greatest demonstrations of faith. To stand still, to not rush, to resist despair and still say, God will move when the time is right. David didn't just tell himself to wait, he told his heart to be strong. Because the heart is where the panic lives, where the what-ifs and maybes scream the loudest. But faith speaks louder, and it says, wait. Not passively, but expectantly, like a watchman looking for the first light of dawn, like a child waiting for the door to open. Because God's delays are never His denials, and what He promised, He will fulfill, not 1 second too late, not 1 moment too soon. His timing is designed for your growth, your protection, your future. When it feels like nothing is happening, God is working in silence. He's aligning people, preparing solutions, shaping your character so you don't just receive the answer, but carry it well. So tonight, tell your soul, be strong, take heart, wait. You don't need to rush what is divine. You just need to remain in faith until what God whispered in secret becomes visible in your reality. Because those who wait on the Lord never wait in vain. You didn't come here just to feel better. You came because your spirit was tired of noise and ready for a shift. And here's the truth. Stillness is not inactivity. It's preparation. God often moves the most in moments that feel the quietest. This night, where you feel nothing, see nothing, hear nothing, might be the exact place where everything starts to change. Because before the miracle, there's a silence. Before the light, there's a pause. Before the breakthrough, there's a night. And that night is now. Tonight is not the end of your story. It's the moment heaven sets the stage. You're being positioned, not punished. You're being aligned, not abandoned. You're being prepared for something greater. Tomorrow might not bring the full picture, but it will bring the next step. And that's how breakthroughs begin, with small shifts that carry the weight of heaven. So breathe. You're not stuck. You're not forgotten. You're in the stillness that God chose to launch your next chapter. Let your soul rest in that truth. This night of silence is sacred. It's where battles end and peace begins, where old fears die and new strength is born, because morning is coming, and with it, the breakthrough you've been praying for. When everything goes quiet, the heart starts to wonder, did God leave me? Why can't I feel him? But the silence is not abandonment. It's intentional. Because silence is where trust matures. It's where faith stops relying on feelings and starts standing on truth. Sometimes God doesn't answer right away because he's training your spirit to recognize his presence beyond emotion. He's not ignoring you, he's anchoring you. Silence is not an empty space. It's a sacred one. It's the pause before his power is revealed. Think of the seed buried in the soil. It feels the weight of darkness, it hears nothing, sees nothing. But inside, a miracle is forming. That's you right now. And this silence, it's strategic. God is shifting things in dimensions you can't perceive. He's building the answer with care, timing it with precision and protecting it from premature exposure. If he spoke too soon, you might move too fast. If he revealed too much, you might depend on the plan instead of the planner. So tonight, stop fearing the silence. Lean into it. Let it quiet your fears and increase your awareness. Because when the silence breaks, it won't be with a whisper. It will be with breakthrough. God is not absent. He's being intentional. Your silent prayers were never ignored. There were nights you couldn't sleep, moments no one knew about, tears that never touched your pillow because you wiped them away before they could fall. But heaven saw it all. Every whispered prayer, every deep sigh, every time you looked strong on the outside but were collapsing inside. And now, God is preparing an answer that will not stay hidden. Because what was formed as a private place will be revealed as a public one. You will not have to explain yourself. God will do it for you, with evidence. You won't need to fight for validation. Your life will speak. Your testimony will shine. What once was your breaking point will soon become your platform of praise. If you're still waiting, write in the comments, "Heaven is working while I wait." Let that be your declaration of faith tonight. You're not forgotten. You're about to be seen by everyone who doubted. God is the same one who rewards in public those who cried to him in secret. Protection is important, but God isn't satisfied with just guarding your path. He wants to heal your heart. Because what's the point of surviving the storm if the pain of it stays inside you? Yes, God blocked the enemy. Yes, he shielded your family. Yes, he provided when there was nothing. But tonight, he's going deeper. Not to fix your environment, but to fix the parts of you that got damaged while fighting silent battles. The exhaustion, the anxiety, the silent fears you never spoke aloud. God saw them all, and tonight he says, "Peace, be still," not just to the storm around you, but to the one within you. He's healing the places where disappointment settled, the cracks that formed when your prayers seemed unanswered, the wounds left by people who should have loved better. You don't have to carry those things into tomorrow. Let him work while you rest. Let him restore while you sleep. Let him do what only he can do, make you whole again. Because when God protects, he doesn't stop at the surface. He enters the soul. He renews your mind. He replaces sorrow with strength and fear with quiet confidence. This isn't just a peaceful night. It's a night of restoration. Not everything you overcame today was visible. There are things that could have gone wrong, but didn't. Conversations that could have broken you, but didn't happen. Accidents, delays, attacks that were blocked before you even noticed. You think it was just a normal day, but heaven was at work behind the scenes, because when you walk under God's covering, you don't walk alone. The Bible says he commands his angels concerning you, to guard you, to lift you up, to fight for you. And they do. They move when you pray. They protect when you sleep. They fight when your strength runs out. You may never know how many times you were rescued in silence, how many traps were dismantled before they reached your path. But tonight, your spirit knows. You feel the weight of that unseen help. You feel the peace of a battle that ended before it began. That's divine protection. That's God defending his child with invisible armies. So take this moment to rest, not just your body but your soul, because you were never unguarded. You were never unprotected. Tonight, whisper this truth to your heart. I didn't fight alone. I was covered. I was guarded. I was defended by heaven. Delay doesn't always mean denial. Sometimes it means preparation. Because what you asked for is not just being answered, it's being refined. God isn't just giving you a result. He's crafting something that will last. Something that won't break under pressure. Something that won't collapse when tested. And that takes time. You've prayed. You've waited. You've wondered if maybe the silence means no. But what if it actually means not yet? Because I'm doing it better than you imagined. God is not a God of shortcuts. He's a God of perfect timing and perfect processes. The delay is not punishment. It's divine precision. You're not being forgotten, you're being positioned. God is aligning the right hearts, the right doors, the right resources, the right moment. If he gave it to you too soon, you might carry it in fear. But when it comes in his time, you'll carry it with confidence. So tonight, release the anxiety of waiting. Rest in the truth that delay is not abandonment, it's refinement. He's shaping something bigger than your timeline and better than your expectations. And when it arrives, you'll realize it was worth the wait. Waiting is one of the hardest parts of faith. It feels empty, silent, like nothing is happening. But in God's hands, waiting is never wasted. Because he doesn't just work in outcomes, he works in the in-betweens. He shapes you while you wait. He strengthens you in the silence. He aligns things not just around you, but inside you. Sometimes the waiting is not because God is slow, but because He's being intentional. He's not just preparing the promise, He's preparing you. There's a peace that comes when you stop trying to rush what only heaven can release. When you realize that God's delays are actually signs of His care. What you're learning right now, patience, trust, surrender, is just as valuable as what you're asking for. Tonight, lean into the pause. Don't resist it. Let it slow your heart. Let it still your fears. Let it soften your soul. Because in the waiting, God is speaking. And if you listen closely, you'll hear Him whisper, "This pause has a purpose. I'm not just taking time, I'm taking care." Not every answer from God comes wrapped in explanations. Sometimes the answer is simply Him, His nearness, His peace, His quiet embrace that fills the room when nothing makes sense. There are moments when you pray for a change, but instead, God gives you comfort. You ask for direction, and He gives you peace that surpasses understanding. You beg for solutions, and He gives you a sense that you're not alone. That's not silence. That's presence, and it's powerful. Because sometimes what your soul needs most is not a fix, but a father, not a breakthrough, but someone to hold you through the process. Tonight, let His presence be your answer. Let it quiet the questions. Let it breathe over your confusion. Let it assure you that He sees, He knows, and He's not far. If you feel that God is near, even in the silence, write in the comments, "Your presence is my answer, Lord." This is your moment to declare that even without visible change, your heart is being held. There are wounds you thought would never heal, memories that once stole your sleep, people, situations, failures. They left marks, but they didn't define you. And now, God is doing something extraordinary. Not just healing, not just restoring. He's preparing a table of peace, a table of honor, a table where you're not hiding anymore. You're seated. Psalm 23 whispered this truth long before you saw it. "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies." God doesn't erase your past. He redeems it. He takes the same stage where you were once shamed and makes it a place of testimony. The same pain that tried to silence you will witness your rising. You won't have to chase vindication. God is your defender, and His redemption is public. So don't fear the shadows of yesterday, because light is breaking through. The presence of your past is no match for the presence of your shepherd. Soon you will sit in peace where you once stood in pain, not to gloat, but to glorify. Because what was meant to destroy you will now be the backdrop of God's grace. You thought the key was to try harder, to pray longer, to believe stronger. But what's lifting you tonight is not the size of your effort, it's the depth of your surrender. Because the kingdom of God doesn't work like the world. In His presence, the way up is to lay it all down. The tears, the fears, the pressure to have it all together. You're being lifted because you finally stopped striving and started resting. You stopped trying to fix everything by yourself and whispered, "God, I can't." But you can. And that moment? That's where breakthrough begins. It's not weakness, it's trust. It's not giving up, it's letting go. Heaven is not impressed by performance. It's moved by dependence. The greatest miracles come not when you force them to happen, but when you allow God to move in His way, in His time. Tonight you are rising, not in pride but in peace, not in control but in confidence that the one lifting you up knows exactly what He's doing. So rest. Breathe. You're not being ignored, you're being carried. Healing doesn't always begin with a miracle. Sometimes it begins with a sigh, with that moment when you finally stop pretending you're okay, when you stop pushing through the pain and admit that something inside you is broken, and you can't fix it alone. That moment is sacred, because God doesn't need perfection to begin. He just needs permission, and surrender is the door. Tonight you're not losing control. You're placing your life in better hands, and in those hands healing begins. Emotional wounds, spiritual fatigue, memories that still sting, fears that still whisper. When you surrender, you make space for God to step in, touch the places you hid, and speak peace where there was chaos. He doesn't rush your process. He doesn't minimize your pain. He enters it with love, with grace, with power. Some wounds don't need noise. They need stillness. And in tonight's stillness, something sacred is happening. Not visible, not loud, but real. There is healing in tonight's surrender, not because you gave up, but because you gave in to the one who knows how to restore you. So rest, breathe. The mending has already begun. You've been through things that almost broke you, situations that felt like they were designed to tear you apart, and maybe they were. The enemy's plan was clear: shame you, discourage you, paralyze your purpose. But what the enemy didn't expect was that every attack would be turned into an ascent. Because God doesn't just protect, He promotes. He takes the place of your fall and makes it the ground for your rising. Joseph was thrown in a pit before reaching the palace. Daniel faced the lion's den before being honored in a foreign land. Jesus endured the cross before rising with eternal victory. And now it's your turn. You weren't left in that dark place. You weren't forgotten in that storm. God has been writing a rise into your story from the very beginning. Tonight is not the end. It's the turning point. What the enemy meant for evil, God is already reshaping for your good. The betrayal didn't stop your destiny. The silence didn't cancel your calling. The valley didn't block your breakthrough. You are rising, not in your own strength, but by the sovereign hand of the one who lifts the humble. Don't fear what tried to break you. Reverence the one who's rebuilding you, stronger, freer, and unshaken. Right now, as you breathe, as you listen, as you rest, mercy is moving, not loudly, not visibly, but powerfully. Mercy is holding back what you didn't even know was coming. It's calming storms before they ever reach your door. It's healing wounds you couldn't put into words. It's arranging divine encounters you haven't dreamed of yet. You don't always feel it. You don't always see it. But that doesn't mean it's not there. Because mercy doesn't require your awareness, only your dependence. This night is not empty. It's full of divine movement, quiet, steady, intentional, and every second is covered in compassion. While you sleep, heaven works. While you rest, angels are dispatched. While your heart slows down, God's heart beats for you, without interruption, so you can release the worry. Let go of the fear, and say with trust, "Your mercy is enough for me tonight and always." If you believe that God's mercy is covering you tonight, write in the comments, "I trust in your mercy, Lord," and let this be your declaration of faith. Some scriptures speak to the past, others speak to your heart. But this psalm speaks to your future. Psalm 27 isn't just a poetic chapter written by David. It's a prophetic mirror reflecting the truth about what God is building in you. It declares courage in the face of fear, protection in the presence of enemies, intimacy in the place of longing, victory after seasons of delay. Everything you've walked through has been bringing you here, to this moment of alignment with divine promises. Psalm 27 says, "You are not forgotten. God sees and hears you. You are not exposed. You are hidden in His sacred place. You are not losing. You are learning to wait with strength. You are not abandoned. Even if others walk away, God remains. You are not broken beyond repair. You are rising with glory." Tonight, this is more than comfort. It's confirmation. A reminder that every verse carries weight, and every word is part of your story. Not because you chose it, but because God chose you to live it. So hold on, read it again. Let it echo in your mind as you drift into rest. I remain confident of this. I will see the goodness of the Lord. This is not just a chapter. It's a promise unfolding, and it will not fail. Fear might have brought you here, but faith is what will carry you forward. You've lived too many days under the shadow of what-ifs, too many nights rehearsing everything that could go wrong. But tonight something shifted. This is not just about feeling better. This is about stepping into truth. Because when you hear the words of Psalm 27, you're not just reading scripture, you're absorbing spiritual courage. Whom shall I fear? My heart will not be afraid. I will see the goodness of the Lord. These aren't just poetic lines, they are weapons. Weapons against anxiety, shame, and lies. And now you are holding them. You're walking out of the valley of dread and into the mountain of trust. You're releasing panic and receiving peace that doesn't make sense, but is completely real. This is not emotional hype, it's spiritual transformation. It doesn't mean fear will never knock again, but it means fear no longer gets to decide your steps. God's love is perfect, and perfect love drives out fear. So breathe deeply, think clearly, rest fully. You're not who you were when this night began. You're being restored, renewed, redefined, not by fear but by faith. God finishes what He starts. You may feel stuck between the promise and the fulfillment, between the prayer and the answer, between the pain and the healing. But this middle is not the end. Psalm 27 doesn't end in despair. It ends in confidence. It reminds you that the goodness of the Lord is not a possibility. It's a destination. Wait for the Lord, be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord. These are not empty words. They're instructions for your spirit, because the wait is part of the work. And the silence doesn't mean abandonment. It means God is still writing the story. He didn't carry you through battles, heartbreaks, confusion and exhaustion, just to leave you halfway through your breakthrough. He is the author and finisher. He's not done until it's beautiful. He's not finished until it brings Him glory. And He's not letting go because He never planned to. So tonight, let go of the fear of being forgotten. Release the idea that nothing is changing. And remember, if you're still in the middle, it just means He's still working. And when God is working, you can rest. Darkness doesn't mean defeat. It means transition. Just because the sky is quiet, just because your room is dim, just because your soul feels low, doesn't mean the light is gone. The sun always returns, hope always rises, and God always moves, even when it's hidden from your eyes. Psalm 27 began by declaring, "The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear?" That light wasn't a metaphor, it was truth. And truth doesn't disappear with emotion, confusion, or exhaustion. It stays, it holds, it waits for the morning. So even if your night feels heavy, even if questions remain unanswered, even if you can't feel joy right now, light is not gone. It's resting, preparing to rise. And when it does, you'll see clearly again. You'll breathe easier. You'll realize God never left. He was simply restoring you in the quiet. Tonight is not the end. It's the preparation. Because weeping may last for a night, but joy comes in the morning. And your morning is already on its way. Peace is not the absence of trouble. It's the presence of someone greater than the trouble. Storms may still rage outside. Questions may still echo in your mind. But peace doesn't come when the wind stops. Peace comes when your heart knows you're not alone. Psalm 27 was not written from a perfect place. It was written in the tension between fear and faith, danger and deliverance, waiting and worship. Yet through it all, the voice of the psalmist stayed clear. God is near. The Lord is my light. He will hide me. I will see the goodness of the Lord. These are not fantasies. They are anchors. And tonight they anchor you too. So let the storm blow if it must. Let the world be loud. Let the answers take time. Because your spirit is safe. Your soul is covered. Your heart is held. And you will sleep. Not in fear, but in the embrace of divine peace. If this night prayer brought calm to your soul, write in the comments, "I'm not alone, God is with me." Let this be your testimony and a light to someone else walking through the same storm.